going to get our yarn, and make a knot. Right, once we have that, I want a width that is just enough to like cover my ears, like just the top of my ears and then part of my hair. So I am going to chain 19 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. All right, so into the second chain stitch from the hook, I'll work as more like insert my hook and pull up a loop, and once again insert my hook, pull up a loop into the next stitch as well, insert my hook into the next chain stitch, pull up a loop, and I'm just going to keep having these loops onto my hook. I am using a short hook because I don't have access to the long hooks, but this will work since we are not working a very, very wide project, so it won't be disturbing. Now I am going to keep pulling up loops into out of every chain stitch, just like that. So if you have 18, sorry, for now, because we started from the second chain stitch from the hook, there are going to be 18 stitches, but then when there are 18 stitches, you must have a +1 loop, so there must be 19 loops on your hook. Okay, so here we are at the end of the row, and now to start our very first row, we are going to pull over, yarn over. We are going to yarn over, pull through 2, okay, yarn over, pull through 2. So for every 2 that we pull through, we have worked 1 stitch. Okay, so those are 2, yarn over, pull through 2, those are 3, yarn over, pull through 2, those are 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, okay, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and lastly 18. So we have our very first row, and this is how it looks like. Now to work your second row, you'll chain 1. We don't turn our work. This stitch pattern is actually yarn cone trimming, so it's very good to work with this kind of stitch pattern if you have plenty of yarn, if you're working bigger projects. But we are not working a big project, we're just working a headband, an ear warmer, and that's clearly it. So a ball of yarn can be very so much enough. Okay, so here we insert our hook into the very first stitch. So you can see I'm inserting my hook into these 2 loops, just these 2 loops. Please do not take this loop as well, because those will be 3 loops, 1, 2, 3. So we are leaving this loop and inserting our hook into just these 2 loops and leaving the third right here down below. So right there we insert our hook and pull through a loop. Once again, you insert your hook into those 2 loops, pull through a loop, and just continue pulling through loops until you come to the end of your row. So you must have 19 loops on your hook once you come to the end of your row. And right here, as we head to get to the end of our row, I'm going to show you something. So it looks like I am at the end of my row, but then when you count your loops, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And remember I told you we must have 19 loops. So at the end of the row right here, usually it looks like this is the last stitch, but it is not. Instead, you can see these 2 loops right here. Okay, there are 2 right here, but then there are 2 in the side right here. So that's what you take, this and that, and this should be your last stitch. So the last stitch is, I don't know, it's more like in the side of the very last stitch that you worked previously. It may not look like you're picking these 2 loops from the top of the stitch, okay? So here, once again, we yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So we just keep yarning over and pulling through 2, and when you count your stitches, you will find that you have 18 stitches, just like you started with. Also, another thing, or something you must keep in mind when working this stitch, is you don't have to work, your tension doesn't have to be so tight, because if it is so tight, it's going to be very hard for you to like find those 2 loops you must insert your hook into as you pull up loops for your next row, okay? So you either, if you feel like you can't, like, if you feel like your tension is going to be really, really tight, then you can maybe size up a hook and work with either a 5mm or 6mm hook. I just wanted to work with this because it's going to give me some sort of like gauge or thickness that I'm looking for that warmth and coziness that I'm looking for. All right, but once you size up a hook, your piece is going to get a little thinner because you're working with a bigger hook, so it's bigger gaps and everything. So it's going to get a little thinner, also given the size of yarn you're working with. Mine is size 4 yarn, so the thinness may not be so much as compared to the thinness it will give if you're working with a size 3 yarn. All right, so chain 1 and insert your hook into, as you can see, into these first 2 loops for the first stitch, and keep inserting your hook into the next 2 loops. Please remember that we are not inserting our hook into this loop, because now here we shall have 3 loops, and that's not what I want. I just need us to take 2 loops of these, just like that, and insert our hook in there, pull up a loop, and just continue doing this for every stitch until we come to the end of the row. So right here at the end of the row, like I told you, our very last stitch is not this, rather the 2 loops of this stitch right there. And once we pull our loop out of that stitch, then we have our stitches complete. And like I said, there must be 19 loops on your hook. So once again, we yarn over and pull through 2. So this should be fun and easy. Remember, if you pull through 3 loops, then you have worked a decrease, and that's not what I want. So there we have it. As you can see, you're starting to get that diagonal kind of effect. Okay, so this is what you are going to keep doing. This is the back of my project and this is the front of my project, and I'm going to let you guys just keep doing this repeatedly for a number of rows that you feel once you hold your project all the way around your head, it can actually wrap around your head. But also just make sure it can wrap around your head when stretched. Okay, more like when you stretch your project, it can actually wrap around your head. Just don't make a length that can a width that can go around your head and just leave it at that, because once your headband stretches out, it won't fit anymore unless you have like big hair. Okay, so but if you don't have big hair, just work rows that you feel like when I stretch out my work, it actually can now wrap and fit around my head. I personally worked 52 rows. Okay, and now I'm just going to get back and show you what it looks like and what goes up next after you have your rows complete. So once I have my hook into my loop, I am going to turn this in out just like that. Like I said, it gives a diagonal kind of effect, but don't worry about that. We are still going to work exactly what we needed to work. So I'm just going to get these ends laid over each other, one on top of the other, sorry. I'll get the ends one on top of the other and just make sure they're both placed right. Like that. I'm just going to lay these over so that I hand sew them underneath. I'll get in through my first stitch on all the ends. I'm just doing this to secure that end, but then I'm going to make sure that I hand sew all these underneath my project. For the record, make sure you are taking every stitch of every piece. So this is the effect that it has. And remember, we have that more like diagonal kind of like effect, so it even becomes more. So far it's this. I'm going to put it on just to show you how it looks like on me. Was my very first attempt at this stitch pattern, and I feel like I'm really confident that I can make many more very small projects out of this pattern, and I can't wait to share most of them with you. So let's see how this looks like. But before we do that, I'm just going to cut my yarn and weave in my ends, because I feel like I've come to the end of my tutorial. I was thinking or suggesting I could fold this once again to have more of this. I think this is also cute, so let's just try that. I feel like the other is like too flat and all that, and not like too flat but very common. So if I just add this one fold to it, so let's just fold this once again and also hand sew this. I love to try out several things if it's going to give me some kind of uniqueness that I'm looking for. So I'm hand sewing, more like folding my result or project the very second time and then hand sewing it once again. You will need some sort of like grip to your work because it's a little hard going through. Okay, there we go. So I stitched that the second time, and just going to go through this. Okay. I'm just trying to secure this. So I'm going to cut my yarn. I'm confident that this is the result I want. Let me cut my yarn, weave in my ends, and then show you what it looks like.